Hey, what's up, everybody? Hey, today we're going to talk about the strategies to improve the parent-child communication. When you think about it, what rests at the heart of any relationship has everything to do with communication, how you communicate. And just like we said, man, a cake is only as good as the ingredients in a cake. So that just basically means the way in which you were developed will a lot of times determine how you will put out. And it's, for some people, they were never taught how to communicate. And especially in most cases, from a parenting and child standpoint, most people may not know how to, or they may not be as furtherly developed in their communication skills. Think about it. As children get older, have you ever faced this? You're like, man, when they were younger, they were all sweet and dandy. But now as they get older, it's like a whole nother grown adult in my house, except they ain't paying no bills. They eating up all the food and leaving the lights on. And so in this segment, we're going to talk about how to improve some of these parent-child relationships. I'm going to share some things for me personally that I've experienced personally that can help you guys take it to the next level, so that way we can build that strong relationship that we're all looking for, that we truly need to know. And so as we go, I mean, I kind of wrote down about 5 things that I think that'd be really helpful to help you improve that parent-child relationship and that communication as you continue to move forward. It's 5 strategies. So here's the first one. The first one is basically get to know your child, how they communicate. You see, every child may not be the talkative child. There's some kids that they just want to tell you everything, and they'll just ramble and ramble and ramble. I mean, you put them in the car and they can't stop talking. And there's other kids that don't communicate much. It's like pulling teeth. You got to pull it out of them. They're more reserved. Well, that's because, again, everybody was created with a different type of personality. And there's some personalities that are more extroverted. There's some personalities that are more introverted. And based off of their personality style, will a lot of times determine how they communicate. So I think one of the first things you have to do is get to know how your child communicates. They may be open or they may be quiet. But I think that's the very, very starting point for understanding how a person likes to talk. You know what I mean? What it is that they like to talk about and how well you guys continue to communicate. So again, improve it. Find out what is their communication style. Here's one of the things that I learned. That you can have a house full of children. You can have 3 different children, and each child will communicate differently. You'll have some that have adopted the communication style of the father. Others, communication styles of the mother. And another one that just has their own type of style. And so, but being able to identify it, understand some tips and strategies around it, does so much for helping you get the messages across, and move the family forward. Okay. The second thing that I feel like a second strategy to improve the quality of the parent-child relationship is to avoid lecturing. There isn't one person around here, not even an adult, that enjoys lectures. Matter of fact, went to college, man, in college, once they started to lecture, a lot of times you found a way, to pull the hat down, put the glasses on, and find a way to go to sleep. Well, children are no different. As a parent, there's moments where we're going to have to talk, okay? And there's moments where we're going to have to share. There's moments where we're going to have to ask questions. But one of the biggest things to shut that conversation down is when you get long-winded. Okay, I remember my kids, man, they was like, okay, they used to joke, like, okay, when dad wanted to talk to them about something, okay, here come a lecture. And in my thought process, I'm thinking I'm giving clarity around a situation. I'm trying to present it in a way where they can see all different sides. But for them, they like, Dad, just give us a couple points. Not even a couple points. Dad, just give us 1 point, say it, and then let's move on. But if you want to really improve that relationship, okay, avoid the lectures, okay? I mean, listen, lecturing and nagging never helps. Okay, I never know one person who likes to be nagged and likes to be lectured. So finding out, finding out what is it that you're really trying to say, and what is it that you really want your child to do, and that's what you say. So if you have some problems with that or issues or challenges, one of the things I did is I went and looked up, okay, how do you talk in sound bites? Because I may want to clarify something and use a lot of words, but when you think about some of the greatest books, we look at some of the greatest articles, the greatest stories, they're not long, they're to the point. And so sometimes we have to improve in our communication skills. How do I say it so a person can receive it? Okay? And so understanding, definitely always try to avoid lectures when you talk. Number 3 is listen up. Listen to your child. Actively listen. So when they're talking, one of the things you want to do that you have to do is you want to listen to the feelings behind what they're saying. And then you want to go fishing with those feelings. Okay, you want to go fishing. Here's what I mean by that. I was talking to my daughter who, who runs track. And in running track, she's in college right now, and she's going through a period of time where she's growing and she's developing, but she still has some uncertainties, as we all do when we're doing something that we really love and we're growing. So there's some times when we're just not performing the way we want to. And so I remember listening to her and listening to her explain how practice went. And while she was talking about how practice went, she started to share certain things, certain cute things about what she was thinking and how she was feeling. Okay. And so as she was talking about it, I started to listen. And so what I wind up doing after she finished sharing that, I responded by saying, hey, babe, what it sounds like you're saying is this. Okay, so what I basically wanted to do is I wanted to find and clarify, it sounds like you're saying this. And then she said, yeah. And then another thing, another way is I said, I will come back and I said, I wanted to relate to her. So I listened to what she's saying and I related to how I felt or how I could feel if I was in that situation. And I responded empathetically by saying, you know what? Man, baby, well, it sounds like you feel frustrated, or that can be frustrating. Or I remember when I was your age and I went through that. I felt this same way. And the very fact that I went fishing for the feelings, which means she didn't have to tell me how she felt. I didn't have to ask her, how do you feel about that? I basically went fishing and saying, man, that can be frustrating, or that can be, that can be confusing, or that can be embarrassing. And when I do that, typically when you go fishing for the feelings and you hit it, a person will be like, yeah, exactly. And how many of you guys know that when somebody understands us, we come to draw closer to them and we tend to open up. So being able to actively listening to the words that they're saying, listening to the feelings behind the words, listen to the thoughts behind the words. They may say things and it can tell you a little bit about what they're thinking about themselves, being so insecure or not feeling accomplished or feeling hurt or feeling embarrassed, whatever it is. And then being able to go fishing by sharing them back to them, man, you must feel like this, or that could be really this way or that way. And so as you go fishing for the thoughts, man, as you're listening to the words, listening to the feelings behind the words and the thoughts behind the words, that can help as well. Okay. And so again, as you're talking these things out, I understand listening up. And the next thing is, tell some stories about yourself. There's nothing more powerful that I realized in my life than with my children than when I wanted to have a teachable moment, but I shared that teachable moment not from the place of dad, the 43-year-old guy, or dad, the over 20-something years older guy than you. But it was when I would share a situation when I'm like, you know what, when I was your age, I felt like this. I remember when I was teaching my son about puberty, okay? He happened to be around 10 or 11, and I was sharing with him. And so one of the things I did is I went out and I got a book. And the book was called, the parent version was called Every Man's Battle. And that book was about sexual impurity and lust and how it's prevalent and where does it come from and all that stuff. And it was basically called Every Man's Battle because most men deal with that. We're attracted by physical things. And so therefore, if you're not understanding that you're in a battle, you're going to get taken over by the battle. So I got a chance to learn a lot about, just how we were developed and what triggers us and so on and so forth, so that I can provide, I can create a situation where I have boundaries and I'm protecting my family, protecting my relationships, protecting my marriage. And so there was a companion version because when I was growing up, nobody did that for me. And so I said, I want to teach my son about this. I want to share with him and I want to introduce him to puberty and introduce him to what to expect and what are some of the traps out there, or what are some of the things he should be aware of, and some of the things about himself, so he can look at it not as far as something's happening to him, but this is happening within him because this is part of his natural design and makeup. So that way it lessens the blows, or he's hearing it from me in a more constructive way, a way that he can understand and a way that we can talk about versus somebody around him talking about it, or a friend talking about their limited experience. So one of the things that I did is that we got the same book. I got 2 books. And what we did is we created some time where we just sat down and we just read. We read for about 15 minutes and we read the same book in the same area. He had his book, I had my book. And then after we read, then we discussed. Now, here's the part of how you improve your parent-to-child relationship and communication, is that the way that we wanted to do it was when I was reading, I would circle certain things in the book. And then as I shared, I didn't share about what they should do or don't do, this thing, based off of the father part. I shared about it when I was his age. So, for example, when it was talking about how, the first time a person got an erection, and I was like, or the first time you got an erection, or just really was looking really at this girl, and all of a sudden you had this interaction. At first, when you were younger, you didn't really care, but then now all of a sudden it's a different thing. So I would say, man, I remember when I was this age, 12, and when I saw this person, and I would say the person's name, and I remember feeling weird inside, or I felt embarrassed, or I was like, what in the world was going on? And so I began to go share with him my experience from that age. Here's the power of that. The power of that was that I did not make him or force him to reveal what he was going through, from a place of embarrassment. But what I did is I put myself out there to share with him how I felt, again, going fishing for his feelings and thinking about how he could be feeling, but I'm sharing it in that way. Here's the benefit of that. The benefit of that is that we had a very constructive conversation. And the reason why is because I related to him. I was relating to him. And I was not making him feel like something was wrong with him or he's so different. I went right where he's at, right where he's thinking about what I felt, thinking about what I thought at that limited age. And I embraced that moment with him. And so I say, so when you're telling these stories, if you want to improve your parent-child communication, tell positive stories. Be careful about, be sensitive about exactly what you share and the amount of information that your child can receive. But at the end of the day, you want to tell positive stories. And you want those stories a lot of times to be relating to the mindset that child is at that moment. And within each story you want to tell, you want to share some areas where the person didn't just get it right. Or the person may have some doubts, or the person may feel some things, or the person may be feeling the way that child is feeling. Because it's from that place that child wow, I'm not by myself. And wow, this is how that person overcame it. I can come over it. I can overcome it as well. And so again, understanding the way we improve our parent-child communication is by telling positive stories. And the last thing is finding time just to talk. Really find time to talk. And I'm not talking, I know in our busy schedules with work and business and all this stuff, we just feel like, man, I don't have time. But guess what? Everybody is given 24 hours a day. How you use it is totally up to you. But I would say, if you want to try to maximize time, look for the small moments. Look for the quality moments. The times where you're taking them to school, the time where you're taking them to a lesson. Okay, the time when you're doing those, different things, the time at nighttime, just spending 5 minutes, just before they go to bed, at dinner time, whatever it may be. I know your schedule may be different, but find time to talk every single day. And you say, wait a minute, what do we talk about every single day? Well, here's a suggestion I like to do. You can go to any Barnes and Nobles, any store, and you can get like a thing of questions. You can Google this. Things to talk about with your kids. Okay, great questions to ask your kids or whatever it may be. You can do any of those, and because they're great question starters. And if you think about this, if every day you do this, 365 days, if you do this every day, you answer one question. That means you share from your perspective, they share from their perspective. Think about it. In 1 year, that's 365 answers, 365 areas of self-reflection, 365 little lessons, 365 experiences, 365 relating moments, 365 quality moments that you're creating in the life of that child. But you got to be intentional with it. It doesn't happen by accident. There's times you're going to feel like it, times you're not. But by being consistent and intentional is the only way that great things are going to happen. So again, find time to talk to the child every day. What? Before breakfast, after breakfast, before lunch, after lunch, whatever it may be, at nighttime. Where you find a time. It don't have to be long. You can say, hey man, 2-minute drill, make it fun. Hey, it's a 2-minute drill. So we got 2 minutes to talk. But if it's intentional, you know what I mean, that 2 minutes can be even bigger and better than a whole hour where there's not intention and you're not relating to anything. And so again, think about it. Take the time to remember and to consider that communication just doesn't get better just because you desire to get better. It gets better because you're intentional. It gets better because you're putting forth the strategies that it takes to make your relationships better. Relationships and the quality of relationships is built upon habits, the discipline and the habits. So if you put these strategies in place, okay, you'll see that the quality of relationships are that much better. See, I'm intentional. I try my best to be intentional with my children. I'm still working. I'm applying the stuff that I'm saying to you. Because guess what? I never went on the football field expecting to win a game without a game plan and without a strategy and without a commitment to execute that strategy. So it's the same thing. There's no bigger or better team right now that you can ever be on than a team of your family. And I think it'll behoove you to do everything you can to make sure that you win in the family. Listen, I'm Donovan Darius. I hope you guys enjoyed this message today. If you have, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know your feedbacks, man. What are some of the things that you like to do to improve the communication in your family? What does that look like to you? Okay? And what are some of the things that you will start to do? What are some of the ideals you have? Little tips, little things that you're, hey, man, let's do this. Let's try this. And let us know how it's working for you as well. Yes, remember, all these videos will be up on YouTube. Okay, Donovan Darius. Don't forget to follow on Twitter and Instagram and all that good stuff. Let me know how this is working for you. And then also, man, don't forget to check out all the products that we have as well, DonovanDarius.com. All right, you guys be blessed.